Senator, what can you do about this trade issue? The president's proposal on tariffs on steel and aluminum. The commander-in-chief is not backing down on the plan, sparking a rift among some in your own party. And now we hear that the European Union is reportedly pitching a retaliatory tariff, 25%, against some American goods. Does it matter that we have a trade deficit? Is there a solution to getting America out of the spot of always on the losing end of these trade deals?
A couple of points. Number one, I can't believe anybody is surprised at this. The president's only been talking about this for 25 years. Number two, before everybody gets all lubed up, and I'm a free trader, by the way, but before everybody gets all lubed up, let's wait and see what his directive says. I think this may be a case of where a negotiator is overreaching and is willing to accept 70% of what he's asked for, and that's what he really wanted to begin with. Number three, I do believe in free trade, but free trade has costs when people cheat. And I can tell you categorically, unequivocally, the problem was we do have steel oversupply in the world, and the problem is China. Now, when the economy started slowing in China, China didn't want to lay anybody off from their subsidized steel mills, so they just started dumping the stuff overseas. You can trace this all the way back to China 2 years ago. The problem is China, and the problem with China in terms of trade is China is eating our lunch and the sack it came in. And that's where I think the president needs to focus most of his attention, not against our allies.
Senator, to that point, that's what has unnerved a lot of business people in this country, CEOs, because this is a blanket tariff on steel on all nations. We still have to wait and see, but that certainly is the indication out of the White House that it's going to be on all countries that import steel and aluminum into this country. Do you have any sense of why now? Why blurt out the idea of this tariff and shake up businesses and our trading partners around the world? What about the timing of this? Is it purely NAFTA, or is it because the U.S. economy is doing all right in the wake of the tax reform?
I don't think anybody knows. I do think the president has been wanting to do something with respect to trade for a while. Again, he talked about it all through the campaign, and he's talked about it for 25 years. But I do think we ought to wait and see exactly what the directive is. Look, it may be half-baked, but it also could be fully baked. We just don't know. I do know that we're starting to understand, all of us free traders, that we have to look at the cost sometimes of all of those cheap imports. Professor David Autor at MIT has just done an excellent study that talks about both sides of the trade equation. And I, for one, want to wait and see what he does. Now, my worry is that this will start a trade war, and it will undermine our economic growth, the genesis of which is our tax cut bill. I worry about that, and I do think China is the main culprit here. I hope the president dials it back, and he may. We just don't know yet.
Hi, Senator. This is Kristen Tate. Of course, nobody wants a trade war, but in the past, it seems like Republicans have been very against tariffs, while Democrats have been more favorable to them. Do you think things have kind of flipped, and are you seeing more support for the tariffs among your colleagues who are Republicans or Democrats?
I don't think things have flipped. I think we have a president, and I don't mean this in a pejorative sense. We have a president who is hard to pigeonhole. I'm kind of that way sometimes. I mean, there's some issues that traditionally Republicans have supported, and on occasion the president doesn't support it. That's okay. That tells me he thinks for himself. Trade is very important to this country, very important to the world. It can throw the world, if we do it wrong, it can throw the world into recession. But having said that, there's no question that for the most part, America tries to play by the rules, but some countries cheat. And one of them, with respect to steel, with respect to intellectual property, for example, is China. Now, and we need to address that. I'm hoping that the president targets this get tough rule on the countries that are cheating and doesn't hurt our allies as well. But again, I'm going to keep my powder dry because none of us have seen the directive.
I just want to quickly point out what is perplexing some people is why would the president, just specifically speaking about these steel and aluminum tariffs, throw this juicy bone to the steel industry while at the same time taking a hammer to steel-consuming industries who he has championed, whether it was on the campaign trail, whether it was since he took office. I'm talking about the automakers, the tractor manufacturers. If they use steel, they're going to get hurt by this.
You're right. Based on the speculation right now, the president's proposal will cost us more jobs than we gain. But we haven't seen the final directive.
Right. You want to wait and see.
And I just have a feeling that the president's doing what a lot of public officials do. He's throwing something out there. He's testing the waters. He's overreaching, and he's seeing what he can get.
Yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with that.
He's playing poker like he usually does, Colonel McShane.
He's playing poker. And I see Senator McConnell do that all the time in the Senate.
The only thing we talked about earlier, though, Senator, is that maybe this issue is different. In other words, like to your point, you said it right at the beginning, that on this issue, he's been very, very consistent, the president, over the years. He really believes this stuff. He really believes in these policies. So maybe he sticks with it more.
Well, he is right that other countries, led by China, I don't mean it disrespect, they're cheating.
Right, but how important is that? Is it important? I mean, Jeb Hensarling just came on and said basically, look, it's more important to look at GDP. You know, maybe it's okay to have a trade deficit. Is that how you feel?
There are times when a trade deficit hurts, and there's times when it doesn't hurt. I mean, look, the tax bill that we just passed is going to increase the trade deficit. It's going to give the American consumer more buying power, and we're going to buy a lot more stuff, and a lot of that stuff's going to come from overseas, and that's going to run up our trade deficit. Is that bad? No.
Right, right.
But is it bad when you're dealing with countries that don't play by the rules, like China? Yeah, that's bad. We ought to do something about it.
Yeah. Well, you make a lot of good points, Senator. It's good to have you on the program this morning. Come back soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.